Welcome to Manifesting Through Motherhood. I'm your host, Lindsay Williams, a self-development mentor, entrepreneur and author, dedicated to helping busy mums like you manifest success, balance and create passive income on your terms. With years of experience in mindset, manifestation, fitness, parenting and business growth, I share simple yet powerful strategies to help you transform your life without the overwhelm. If you're ready to up-level your mindset, build a thriving business and create the life you truly deserve, you're in the right place. You can also find all my books on Amazon, packed with tools to help you manifest and grow. So don't forget to follow the podcast to be updated on all new episodes. And let's get going. Welcome back to the podcast. How is everybody doing? I'm going to talk a bit more about the business side of my journey, what the podcasting side, how to, if you're thinking about setting up a podcast and you're still hesitant, January is a really good time, like you've got your new goals and you really want to do it, but you still might be hesitant because there's so many different things that you can be worried about, especially speaking behind a microphone, talking to people, knowing what to say. You start to question yourself. You look at imposter syndrome and think, am I good enough to talk about this subject? And you won't be doing a podcast unless you've either got a business or you've got a speciality in something that you know. You are always the expert in the room if you know more about a subject than somebody else. You'd be surprised what you can talk about on a podcast. We all have something to say. And especially if you're in business and you've got a business already, and it can lead on to a podcast. There's so many benefits of having a podcast. And look what it's done for me. I'm just growing everything at the minute. I've published a book. I've got my journals. I work with people and help them launch podcasts. I didn't think I would go into it by doing that. I do masterclasses. I do speaking events. I collaborate. I'm always getting myself out there, and I think it really positions yourself if you want to be taken seriously within your role, with whatever you're like talking about. So starting a podcast is an exciting journey, and setting it up can be straightforward when it is broken down into manageable steps. So I'm going to go through 7 simple steps that's going to help you launch a podcast. And this is just if you're starting to think about it. If you want to either access my masterclass or you want to book a one-to-one this month. One-to-one will give you a clear, concise structure of what you're going to do. You can ask questions. I have a course. We go through the course. I send it you back. And then you've got that for life. So even if you don't do it now, you might want to start getting everything ready. And if you've not got everything ready, then, it feels like a million miles away of getting it out there because there's so many things to think about, and tech is usually the one thing that really stops people. So what we need to do, number 1, is define your podcast concept. So choose a niche, focus on specific topics or an audience. So like mine is busy mums. I help with manifesting, help with business growth is in my bio. I do pivot some of my, the work that I do because I've developed, I talk about the manifesting and a lot of the fitness, but I've also become an author, self-publisher in the time that I've been doing the podcast. So if you are to change what you're doing, just really think long and hard about what really lights you up inside, what makes you excited. What could you actually talk about? You could start just recording and start listening and just give yourself some feedback and think, right, well, actually, this is what, and look at your audience around you. Who's your audience? Who do you speak to? Who do you think you can speak to? Who do you get on with? So this is where we start to identify when we start to look at, our client avatar, I would say, if you're in business. So who would it be? Would it, if the mums, do you help them with sleep? Do you help them with the children? Do you help them with ADHD, health, wellness? If you're picking them subjects, and then you would do subcategories and think, well, actually, if I did talk about this, it might be about menopause. Well, there's so many things I can think of that you could talk about menopause. So then you go subcategories and you look at your personal experiences. Then you can get guests on the podcast to think ahead. What can you actually turn this podcast into? A thriving business? Do you have have you done a course? Have you done qualifications? Can you start coaching? Can you start teaching? Let it flow. Don't always have to have all the answers straight away, but it's really good to start have a concept and get a big piece of paper, write it down on the floor, and just write your client avatar on this piece of paper and start looking at what's the next step? What do I need to do? Do I need to create a Facebook group? Pick a name, make it catchy, relevant, and easy to remember. Don't worry if there's other people with similar names, because it's probably going to be, like I do manifesting. Could you imagine how many manifesting podcasts there is out there? But it's not going to deter me. We're all different. It doesn't really matter. I don't even think about it. Your podcast is what's true to you. So, think about, make sure it says what it is on the tin, if you get what I mean, because then people will know. Because we can overthink it and put too much in there, and we don't want that. So we want it to be quite easy, and and especially looking at our images. So I had a photo shoot, so I've recently changed my picture. So it's doing that. It's like looking at having maybe some photos taken. You might just have a logo. So looking at your colourings, like what's your brand? So try and stick to the same brand. If you've got purples or pinks, have that in your podcast, especially in your artwork. And you want to start planning your content. So it's deciding on your format. So like I said, interviews, solo episodes, storytelling, meditations, episode length. I wouldn't do anything more than 25-30 minutes for yourself every time, because it can be quite lengthy. But if you've got a guest on, it can be up to an hour sometimes, or you could cut it into 2 sections or ask the guest to come back. So if you think about it, if you're just doing 1 podcast a week, that's 4 a month. That's not a lot when you think about it. You could do bonus episodes. You can get guests on the podcast, and that can really help you. That's going to help their audience as well, their reach. People, they're going to promote the podcast. So it's thinking out of the box with your podcast, because if you're doing it's like a menopause podcast, then you're going to want to share it with the world. So you want to get your friends, your colleagues, people that are online. I think you've kind of got to have some social media presence if you are going to launch a podcast, because we need some strategy. We need to network. If you're not networking, then you're not getting it out there. It can't just be left to be just organic. I do get organic listeners. That moves over time, not at the beginning. So it's really important that we get them listeners in and we retain those listeners as well. So number 2 is prepare your equipment. So start with quality basics, like your microphone. I've got a Yeti. So it's something that's going to sound all right. Headphones, I already had some headphones. So the ones with like the buffers on, with little sponges on the side. And then start looking at software. So there is free tools that you can use, which I teach on my course. So once you've got I think once you start manifesting your artwork, your clientele, who's your listenership, it becomes a reality. Then we start to visualize, and it all becomes exciting. And you think, right, so now what? I need my equipment. I need to start planning my content, and then I need my equipment. Equipment could be a massive barrier. A lot of people I know that don't probably have really good up-to-date laptops. So, you can record on your phone. Sometimes I do record content on my phone, depending where I am or if I'm on holiday, but it's hard to edit. So there is 2 free tools that you can use. It doesn't have to be expensive. When I was looking at coaching, when I was looking at launching a podcast, it was after lockdown, and I thought, I was looking online, and it all looks really complicated, and I'm looking at about £1,000 just to launch it. I do just one-to-ones, and sometimes everyone that's launched a podcast has probably just had 1 session with me, a one-to-one for 60 to 90 minutes, and everything was there what they needed, and they just did it. Like 2 weeks later, they had a podcast going. So it just goes to show that if you really listen and you're on the one-to-one, and you are really, asking the right questions, and you've got that, and you're really going to put the effort into it, you're going to find it so much easier to launch your podcast. Number 3, setting up your recording space. So make sure you choose a quiet area with minimal background noise. So I was in my studio outside, but when it's cold and my son's in the house, I tend to record when he's at school, but I'm recording now. I've got a gym office room, which I have got like a new carpet in there, so it's quite cushy, and I've set up a corner with a ring light, a vision board. I've got some nice accessories, and I've made a little office space. I love it. So I've just made it comfortable. I upgraded and got a new chair, like a pink chair. It goes back with a pull-out footstool. It's a bit like a gaming chair, but a pink one. So I've got pink vibes going on here. I've got a foot massager, I've got a hand massager, I've got a head massager underneath. So I've made it into a really nice, cute workspace with my pens, my pads, everything I need to record content. So just think about, could you have a little cubbyhole? Is a little area that you can use, or just a corner of your kitchen on your table? Make that for you. You can go on Amazon and get like little tables for like £30, or just something small to put up. And then just, if you are in a kitchen, just try and make sure you can buy like these. They're like soundproofed, like it's like a U shape, and it goes round. So because otherwise it could sound echoey. So sometimes when you listen to podcasts, it can sound a bit echoey. Like sometimes I'll hit the microphone and I can't really edit it out. So you just got to be careful where you are going to record. So make sure you've got some like cushions, or maybe put some blankets around you just to try and muffle out. I've got a muffler. So I think, just think it, once you start recording, you start to get used to it, and then you start to listen, and then you can start cleaning your sound up by just moving your podcast area. Or you might want to record go in a studio. You can probably get some, if you're really going to go into it, you can record in a studio and just like pay wherever you live. You can find out local studios, recording studios, and they will do everything. And sometimes people will edit your podcast. So I know a lot of people that edit that, but you don't want to be forking out for money that you're not making any money yet. So if you can, I do everything myself because I enjoy it. I like to be in control of what I do. So I think, if I was in a studio, I would probably get somebody to do it. But I like to listen back and listen to things. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get rid of that. People wouldn't know that if they was doing it for me. So just think about what you can do and what can you make a little area for you. I'm guessing if you're in business anywhere, you're already going to have a nice space. So make that space comfortable. Really step into your podcast era, your podcast, big energy, because you want to be able to create content and make yourself look good when you're recording. You want to maybe do some like little cuts of you talking about your podcast. You might want to record and do YouTube. So you might want to do live. I know a lot of my friends that go on, and the podcast is on YouTube. The only reason why I don't go live on mine is because I might be in my pajamas or in my comfies. So sometimes I don't really want to be dressed up. And I might cut and have a break, or I might have a drink. So I might have a stop for a minute, or something might happen. The doorbell might go. So unless you're not going to get distracted, then you've just got to weigh up what you want, what type of content you want for your podcast. And then number 4, we're going to record and edit the podcast. So write a loose script or bullet points to guide your discussion. So what I do when I'm thinking about episodes, that I write quite a few weeks out, and then I think, when I listen to things and I think about things, and I'm looking at where life's guiding me. And because things can just happen in life, I put them in my notes, and then I think I'm going to speak about that subject. So I'll start writing content and bullet points, and I kind of, the more I plan, the more it messes up, because I feel like I'm just reading from a script, which I prefer to be free flowing. I really would struggle keep reading things. So I do read, I read off my notes. So I put it in my notes, and then what I do sometimes, I've got a printer, and then I send it to my printer so I can print it off. I can add, highlight things and take things off. So it's adding bits on. And if you're organised, you've got your script then for your month, so you could pre-record quite a lot of content, or you can just do one a week, which I'll record 1 or 2, but I like to do on the spec. I like to do once a week, because it's depending on how my energy is, because my energy needs to reflect my Facebook and my Instagram. Because if I'm talking about something on the podcast and somebody's following me now, they're going to think that's not coinciding. So I do like to be as raw and real as I possibly can, and like to take you on a journey. I like to tell you about my life and everything that's been going on, because I'm that type of person anyway. I'm not very it can be quite structured sometimes, where it's just quite robotic. I can't do that. That's not me. I don't, that isn't my style. But there is people that I know, that friends that do podcasts like that. They're very evergreen. So evergreen wouldn't be, it's something that you can repurpose all the time, but it wouldn't be, you wouldn't talk about your family and what's going on in current events and lifestyle. So you would just talk about that subject, that's it. You would never know when it's been recorded. So that might be a really good thing, especially if you're working. You might need to just record 5, so you've got 5 in the bag as well. Looking at keeping the episodes natural and engaging, and just focus on your listener. Get to know your listeners, because people, obviously, tell people they could come and follow me, and and then I ended up getting really good friends with my podcast listeners. But I've never had anyone nutty or anything like that. Obviously, you've got to be careful. Like, I won't really go off meeting people that I'm not really sure of or anything like that. Like, but people become part of the people that listen to this are going to be busy mums, and they get to know me and they get to follow me, and I follow them and their businesses, and you can. It feels like you know people, because that's what I'm quite a familiar person, so I'll feel like you'll probably feel like you know me really well because you listen to the podcast. It's like anyone that you follow on social media, you feel like you know them and you don't, and you can get really attached to like celebrities online, and you're like, oh, when they broke up, and you get really upset for people because that's what we like. You think about some of the people that we follow on Instagram, we end up just, we follow them for the business, but in the end, we're just nosy, are we? We just like to see what people are up to. So you've got to think, like, you've got to be you. You've got to reflect what's you, and just be a natural. I've always spoke about when I do my one-to-ones, I always say to people, you're either going to swear on your podcast, or I don't swear on my podcast, but I'm not saying that you can't do that. But you've got to think, when you're swearing on your podcast, if you are going to take your podcast further, and you are going to grow your podcast, you're going to look at if you're going to go for brand deals, if you're going to get sponsors, and especially if you're health and wellness section, you don't want to be effing and jeffing, because that's when it's going to sting you, because people won't work with you because they won't want to listen to you. And if you haven't got a foul mouth anyway, you're not going to start swearing. But if that's you and that's your brand, then you go for it. You do whatever you want. Just be careful what you're saying. You're not giving out false information. You're not anything political, anything like that. I do not talk about things on my podcast that I'm not 100% sure of. I would never give out false advice, and I would make sure I'm courteous to my listeners, because there's things that I say and I think, oh, could they have took that the wrong way? But I'm only human at the end of the day. We all have different beliefs on different things, but I've never insult somebody. I would just try and be as natural and as respectful. And I mean, it's a free podcast. I'm just giving out support and advice. So, I'm trying my best myself. And you can, edit your podcast. I don't cover a lot of this on my one-to-one. So if you wanted to work, with me longer, like over a month or 3 months, I can teach you how to edit and do all the software on your laptop. It's dead easy to do. And you'd have to add your intro, which is separate. Outro, you're going to have to get some music, so buy some little bit of music. So don't be pinching music from chart music or anything, because you'll get done. So you want something that's going to enhance the sound quality. So I go through that when you book a one-to-one. I go through everything, legalities and what you need to do and you don't need to do. So number 5, design branding and create the artwork. So look at your podcast logo. If you go on Canva and you put in podcast artwork or logo, it gives the exact measurements, and then it gives you actually a dummy look. There's lots of logos, so you can use those. You could use your brand colours, pop them on there, add your pictures. It's kind of already done, because sometimes you might not be very good at artwork. So going on Canva, and especially if you've got a Canva Pro, you can use it for free and use it for your content. So, it's looking at your pixel artwork. So I talk about this. If you are struggling to do artwork, I could help you create some artwork. What doesn't take me long to do that. You could send me some images. I can put something together if you give me a good idea what you need. So I could help that side, and the social media side of launching a podcast and putting it all together, because you might be able to do it, but then you don't know what the next steps are. And the theme music, so I've got obviously my intro with my music, or if you are a musician, you can create your own, so you don't have to get any permission. Then you don't have to worry about anything copyright. It's your music, and your introduction should be a strong hook to draw your listeners in. So you listen to mine and you probably get fed up of listening to it, but for new listeners, I keep it on there so people then get to see, I talk about manifesting, I talk about how to navigate life, because what I do in my life to up level and to upgrade and to and just manage my life, and being a mum to a child with additional needs and growing a business and everything else that goes on in your life, I teach you the strategies that I've learned for years. I've done qualifications in. I'm not just plucking it out of the air. I've done qualifications in a lot of areas, so I've just brought everything together, and that's why I created the podcast because I wanted to support mums, and when I get feedback from mums and say, that podcast really helped me and I've really implemented some of them strategies, it makes me feel amazing because they are listeners, they are mums, women that are absolutely probably just so don't know what to do. Everyone's at different stages of their life, and even just spending an hour with me, and people come and get their hair cut in the salon. They say, Lindsay, I get a free life coaching session. I think people just stay with me for free life coaching because I have a tendency to just give constructive feedback to people and really make them think about the life and what they want. And the power of manifesting, and how manifesting strategically can really grow, improve your life, grow your business. You can start thinking about your health, start visualization. There's so many techniques that you can do that will just up-level your life, even just from getting up early, doing some affirmations, doing your journaling, doing your gratitude. I guarantee after about 2 days, your mindset changes. Honestly, everything just changes overnight. And I know this because I've had so much feedback. People are saying, I never thought of that, and, what a good idea that was. Because you guarantee every podcast that I listen to, even if it's the same, people in the same field as me, I still pick up, just nuggets and them lightable moments. I never thought of it like that, because we all have different ways of, we're all different learners and we have different ways of teachings. So I might listen to something twice. 2 different people might tell me the same thing, that one of the persons will teach it the way that my brain works. And that's nothing on the reflection of the other person. It's just that's our learning styles. And if you're struggling with ADHD or any autism, it's the way you, I know with my son, the way I have to word things. So it's the language, and I need somebody to explain things in a certain way visually, and I get it then. And so that's just where my brain works. It's quite an active brain, mine. And then we're going to be looking at number 6, host and publish your podcast. So it's looking at your podcast platform. So I'm with Buzzsprout, but there is other ones that you can use. And what you need to do when you set up your host, you're going to pay monthly for your host, which isn't too expensive, but you've got to pay this because then it pops it out into metadata. So you have to upload your episodes, and then what it does, it'll start distributing it to Apple, Spotify and Google. So you have to have a system. And then what happens within 24 hours, it's called an RSS feed. And what it does, it pops it out there. And that's when we can go on Spotify. I remember the first time my podcast was live, and I seen it on Spotify, and it was right next to a celebrity. And I was like, what's going on here? And I couldn't believe, it was so surreal that I'd seen my podcast. And it's out there in everybody else's podcast. So yeah, there is going to be a lot of competition, but just stay true to you. Don't try and follow what other people are doing. You've just got to stick to you, stay in your lane, follow your vision. You'll start to see your podcast. Once you've got your listeners, them listeners will come back. They might leave, it might be just your friends that are listening, but keep networking, collaborating. Go on TikTok, go on Instagram, do some lives, do some stories. It's all about your social media. Everybody loves social media. And we all know when we go on see cat cuts or any sound bites, we're like, oh, what's this? I want to listen to that. And it takes 3 to 5 seconds for just to listen to somebody, and you're hooked. I'm I need to find that episode. What's that podcast? So what I tend to do is screenshot things if I see online, and then I think, well, I'll go back to that later. Because we're nosy and we are hooked in so quick. So number 7, we're going to promote and grow your audience. So social media, absolutely, and you'll see once you're doing the podcasting, my social media, I get a lot more people that I want to engage with me, or they might listen to my podcast and then they'll add me online. So, it's really good to share snippets behind the scenes, and you make sure your graphics are really nice. So I use various platforms to make, especially Canva, to make, so I'll get my podcast logo, I might put a picture of me in there, I've had the brand shoot. You might just want to make nice images in your home, sat with your microphone with a coffee in your hand. So make it look really good and inviting. And that's how you've got to be relatable to get the right listeners in. And if you're putting things out on social media and you've got the opposite sex, say, so if I was more male-led on my social media, Well, that's not going to be ideal audience. I do have dads listening to the podcast, but I wouldn't really, unless they know me. But if they didn't know me, they're very unlikely, because of the title, Manifesting Through Motherhood, they're not going to listen to the podcast. So look at what you've got to work with. Pick 1 to 2 social media platforms. Go and find a new audience. TikTok is amazing. Get yourself out there. Especially if you've not got anyone on there that's family that you don't know, because we all get a bit worried about people listening. I remember putting it out there thinking, well, what if ex-boyfriends listen? What if old employees? You know, like you started to think, they're going to think, who do you think you are? Because that's self-sabotage. That's imposter syndrome right there. We start to question. But I couldn't care less now, because what I say is what I say. It's my podcast. The proof is in the pudding. I've grown my business from it, and you know, I earn passive income. So I think, you know, proof is in the pudding when you start to put yourself out there, and you start to, like, I sell my books through my podcast. I do masterclasses. I'll promote them on here. So everything's just, you know, I mean, I could always probably do more and do better, but you always forget. And, you know, it's not always going to be perfect all the time, but, you know, a good heart, and you really want to make this work, you will make it work. And if you collaborate in just the best, and I know I touched on that earlier, but go and be guests on other people's podcasts, and then invite people onto yours, because then you've got that audience, and then you can ask them to blog for you, so you can put blogs on your podcast, and then your SEO is more combined, because you'll have your backlinks. So you could ask people if they want to, say if you have someone on for nutrition, then ask them, do you want to write a nutrition blog, and pop that on your website. So I work with Podpage, and I have a blog on there, and I do blogs. So, I mean, I need to do more blogs at the minute, but when I do put relevant blogs on, I get an influx of downloads, because it's on Google. And then if I talk about a subject, then people are going to download that episode, because it'll just show up anyway. So when you put my podcast or Busy Mum's Fitness Corner into Google, all my blogs come up, and so you're looking at, you know, your SEO with your website. So the more you do, even your titles of your podcast will really boost it, especially if you've got your podcast and your website attached together. And, you know, and do encourage reviews and create a call to action in episodes. So, you know, don't be scared of selling and showing, like, what you do, because we can be a bit, I'm the same. I'm not like, even though, like, with my hairdressing, I don't promote my hairdressing, because I just get clients, and I have retaining clients. Like, if I'm trying to sell, even like when I sell my masterclasses, money is funny to me. Like, I'm so abundant with everything that I do, that some people are so money driven, but it can make people feel icky, and I don't want, once money starts to feel icky, so I like it to be natural. If you want to join, people wouldn't be listening to me if they didn't want to work with me or have anything to do with me. So why would you not sell to people? Because people want something from you. So you might sell a candle, you might sell some earrings. People want that, like, you know, that buy trust factor. Sometimes you just buy things off people because, you know, sometimes I like people, and I know them, and they're selling something, and I think, no, I'm going to invest in you. And it might not be very expensive, but I think, you know what, you're showing up, you're doing business, and it's something that I really want. It might be a planner, it might be just be like an accountability month somewhere. Just, you know, you might have a membership coming up, or something that's coming up, so you've got like a launch strategy, so you can embed that into your podcast. And you can also get sponsors on your podcast, so you get them through Buzzsprout, but sometimes the ones that get offered are not always the right ones for my podcast, or I can get private ones, which I'm going to look at. So if you want to sponsor this podcast, you would pay me, and I would sponsor. You would send me a voice note, and what I would do is embed your, you know, ad into my episodes. So you can send me a voice note, I can put that on, and then, you know, if you don't want to, you know, carry on next month, I take that out. But you've had all them people, it's got on every single episode, all 4 seasons, so it will go everywhere. And then I'll put all your links in my show notes, so you might have something coming up, so you've got more eyes. Or you might have a group that you're launching and you want to promote it. So so many different things you can do. You can start looking at, you know, how can you make money from the podcast. So, you know, you're not going to start making loads of money straight away, but if you're good at it, and you're good at social media, and you're good at strategy, you know, you've got a good foot in the door, with doing this. So I wouldn't overthink it too much, and just stay consistent. Like, plan a content calendar and aim to release episodes on a weekly basis, or you can do bi-weekly. You can do monthly, but I think, at first you want that listenership in, because it's a long time to wait for a month for somebody to put a podcast out there. So the consistency is key to growing your audience. So let me know if you want any more help, or you want to book a one-to-one, or you want to access my masterclass in podcasting, which is just something pre-recorded. Then let me know, because I think, if you are thinking about it, what you're waiting for. I say to people, like, if I just kept thinking about how do I do it, what do I do? And I thought, I'm going to have to self-teach myself, because I'm not going to pay £1,000 to launch podcasts. And now looking at what goes into it, it's quite a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. So, that's not me underselling myself. It's I want to help a lot of busy mums. And, not everyone's got £1,000 that he's just going to throw around. I wouldn't want people to get into debt. I'm not like that. I do try and, offer affordable, courses and, one-to-ones for people to get them going. And if they want to work with me longer, then we can do longer sessions. So, packages. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I am excited to see if anyone is thinking about a podcast. Please send me a message, even if you just want a quick chat. Send me a voice note. I will voice note you back. I have no problem. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, because, just text that one next step, to thinking about the podcast, to getting it going. In a week's time, you might have your podcast up and running. It's not as hard as you think. So let's break down any barriers. And happy podcasting. I will look forward to hearing from you, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you feel inspired to take action and manifest the life you deserve. Don't forget to come and join me over on social media and Instagram at Busy Mums Fitness Corner for more tips, motivation and behind the scenes. And also, be sure to check out my books on Amazon. They're designed to help you manifest your dreams and grow. And if you're ready to take the next step and work with me, you can head over to my Linktree for all the details. Let's make magic happen together. So until next time, keep manifesting and stay amazing.